And we are rolling.
Welcome to the December 18th, 2025 Site Plan Review Committee SPRC meeting for the 3130 Langston Boulevard, Walgreens. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation legally authorized by the Code of Virginia for the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Walgreens project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and civics out to run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, and the county's events calendar in the email notification sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it is appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes. For SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment. Take it. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who are planning to provide public comment will need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn your video feed on and raise the virtual teams. I will monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name presenting now, and I will verbally check to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have that video feed option. See anybody? For members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called on to speak at the end of the meeting. Will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda items. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees or provide staff with your name if in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted on the website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. Okay, my name is Nia Bagley, and I'm the chair for this project, and we're going to table and introduce one another.
I'm Jim Todd. I'm the president of the Cherry Hill Citizens Association, neighboring citizens associations to this project.
Aaron Roberts, North Island Citizens Association.
Jackie Snelling, Lion Village Civic Association, the location of this project.
Adriana Torres, Planning Commission.
Paola Mondago, Planning Commission. Joe McIntyre, C2E2.
Steve Sapp with Davis Scott Architects.
Cassie Guy, Bernie, owner.
We can't hear you, which means they can't hear you.
Cassie Guy, Rooney, owner.
Zach Williams. Joe Ventron, Housing Commission. Jim Lantelli, Planning Commission, and I note that I am also the outgoing president of the Langston Boulevard Alliance. All my opinions and observations tonight are solely as a member of the Planning Commission, and not necessarily those of the Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Bob Benson, I'm with Forestry and Natural Use.
Mark Koblunz, I'm the president of the Neighborhood Community Association across Langston.
Andrew Ferreira, Town Landlord Commission.
Bryce Johnson, Department of Environmental Services. Matt Pfeiffer with Arlington County Planning Division.
And around the room,
Pete Roberts from the Planning.
should be sitting here, but that's okay.
Joe Brown, Langston Boulevard Alliance.
Nick Richardson, planner with VICA.
Chris Champagne, a civil engineer with VICA.
I'm William Lawson. I'm an attorney here in Arlington.
Mike Picoski with VICA Transportation.
Every Cross with Land Sign, landscape architect.
Claire Jacobson, Lion Village resident.
Tim Houston, Maywood Civic Association rep.
Vicky Lewin, Arlington resident.
Andrew Rood, president of the Lion Village Citizens Association.
Jeremy Last with Forest Highlands.
First, I want to thank everybody for their patience as we worked very hard to get back to the second SPRC for this project. And you'll see why tonight that it took this long. Happy that we have an applicant who has taken so much time to make sure that they are bringing the best thing to us. I see that she said.
Tenley has her hand up, and I think also we have several members of the
That's right.
SPRC that are on. So
Online.
you may want to.
So Commissioner
Go to those
Peterson,
folks.
do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm here tonight too, Tenley Peterson, Planning Commission.
We also have a few others. Yeah, Karen Auden with Disability Advisory.
Yes, thank you.
And then I
And
think
Eric.
Eric Goodman, do you want to introduce yourself? Eric, if you are online and can hear us. And then finally, I think we have Melissa Reggio with Parks and Rec.
Thank you. It's a proclamation. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so as I was saying, I just wanted to, and you will see why shortly, that this applicant wanted to make it right and took the time to do it. So you'll hear more about that. And then lastly, my speech on staying off of Santa's naughty list tonight. We were blessed in having a very nice, civil conversation during SPRC 1. We live in a crazy world, and it's even crazier now because of the holidays. I don't want to have to call an adult timeout, but I will. Please respect one another's comments. I think that we are all assembled here today in an opportunity to weigh in with the applicant, and everything that happens only historically is added to the quality. And so with that, you want to take it away?
Sure, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and actually I'm going to hand it over to Zach and Cassie. I think they are going to, let's see. Yep. There we go. Eric is saying that he can't hear audio. Can others hear our audio? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we can hear audio.
Maybe log out and go come back in. Melissa said she can hear. So I think he should.
Okay, Zach and Cassie, take it away.
Great, thanks so much, Matt. Again, Zach Williams, representing properties on this project. It's great to see everyone tonight. We are very excited to be back for SPRC. It's been some time, as folks know, almost 6 months since the last SPRC. So we have a fair amount of topics to talk about tonight. We're going to try to go through our presentation as efficiently as we can. It is a long presentation in terms of slides, but we're going to work through them quickly. We have a lot to talk about, not just from the last SPRC, but just frankly new topics, as well as some changes that have occurred over the last couple of months. So you can see our team there on the screen. You just heard everyone introduce themselves. You're going to hear from someone from every discipline that's part of the team, from civil to stormwater, landscaping, transportation, architecture, obviously Cassie and myself as well. So you're going to get the entire team tonight, and we're looking forward to presenting the project and talking about the topics for SPRC 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. The first thing I wanted to point out was that we filed this application, and it's hard to believe, August of 2024. So it's been a while. The good thing about that is we've had a lot of time to engage and interact with the community. And this is not all of but just a representative sample of them. As folks know, we have 4 civic associations bordering the site. We've met with leadership of all of those associations repeatedly throughout this project, most recently this past Tuesday. We did a little preview of the dress rehearsal of tonight.
just to make sure folks had a chance to understand and digest the changes before we got into the formal SPRC. And we will continue to do that as we move forward. The project hasn't changed much in terms of the overall scope. The number of units has come down a little bit, down to 300. Mostly everything else is the same. There's obviously some changes we'll talk about tonight, but the overall programming of the project has not changed much since the last SPRC. The agenda tonight, we're going to quickly work through our building and architecture change.
Could you adjust that so we can see the top of the slide?
Hold on just a second.
Oh, I think that did it. Yeah, I think that did it. Okay, can everybody see that?
So we're going to work through the building and architecture changes quickly. We'll then talk about landscaping and some of the changes to the Plaza Park hybrid. We'll get into transportation, stormwater overlay relief, and then we'll have a staff presentation. We'll also have questions and discussion and conversation. So getting into architecture, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Saff at Davis Bridge architecture changes.
Okay, so one of the major things was stormwater, which they have to shift the base of the building on the east side over by about 10, 11 feet, which forced us to also, once looking at the circulation in the garage, forced us to kind of push the North Kirkwood side out further to the south. And another major thing you'll see in the design is we ended up working with this issue of stormwater management to get all the retail lobby and everything along Langston Boulevard to be at the same elevation, which then created a situation at the very northeast corner of the building where we had to provide steps, and then it kind of ramps both along Langston Boulevard to the west. Then we have a ramp going down to the south off the corner. Again, this is a lot of the architectural images have not changed much. You will see the biggest differences at the base of the building along Langston Boulevard and the facade along North Kirkwood. Just looking from pawn shop site to the west east elevation. And that's just looking from the pawn shop to the southwest. Shop at the intersection. Just keep going through most of the images you've seen. And then this is the changes to the North Kirkwood elevation. Really, the whole building, the base of the building, the architectural style and the articulation and the treatment of the materials and everything has kind of carries around the whole building. So really there is no back of house on this design. And there is a step in the building back, shifted back. We tried to push it wherever we could to try and get some articulation of the side. And we did try and treat certain areas a little differently than others in the opening. So we do have glazing back there, but we also have decorative screens. We have artificial greens and other things to just give the whole south elevation a different look to it.
And that's a change as well.
That is a change.
You're seeing here.
That's correct. And here you can see at the very northeast corner, that's going up to the retail. The steps going up, difference of grade of about 30 inches. There.
So that's obviously a big change.
That's a big change. And that is the northwest corner of it. Change there. And then that's the other lobby on the North Kirkwood side.
Can you speak up?
Yes. This is looking at the elevated courtyard. Andrea will talk about the plan design. And this is just a retail from the lobby to the north looking east.
I think the change you can see here is that, again, that
You
elevation.
guys need to speak up just a little bit for this end.
There's a really loud air handle on this in the room.
Got it. Got it.
Yes, so you can see a change here. Just point out that ramp.
Yeah, the ramp starts at the lobby and then kind of works its way along as the grade drops to the east. So basement, level garage. Ground floor, all retail lobbies to the north, and then you have at the very bottom corner is the other lobby, secondary lobby. Typical parking level, and you can see that the hatched area is where you have a double height space for retail along Langston Boulevard. Top level of parking. It's the elevated courtyard level and amenities area. Typical level and typical level. And then one last slide is where you have the terrace at the very east corner. Stepping back. All right, turn over to Andreas. Sit in my place.
Decent amount of the architectural changes came from civil improvements that Mike will also be getting into as well.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Crossett with Land Design, landscape architect on the project. So this is an overview of the project. You can see it's very green, but I'm gonna only stay on pretty much the stuff that has changed since the last SPRC. And you can see the key concept notes here. So one of the things that we heard during the last SPRC is that the Plaza Park hybrid felt very disconnected and not integrated. So we worked on a new design, which I'll get to in my next slide. You can see street tree layout revisions along Langston and North Kirkwood, which a lot of these, like Cassie just said, are really civil and stormwater management related. So we had to adjust some things as we responded to those changes. The plaza level 3 design there, that hasn't changed at all. But the other thing that we heard at SPRC was the, the north west side, or I guess the whole west side, that connection from Langston down to the park felt very tight. It felt maybe it was too lush, like in the views, it seemed like there was too much going on. So we tried to adjust that a little bit. And you'll see in the views, we also provide a lighting kind of imagery with lighting to show that it's going to be inviting and welcoming. Okay, so the Plaza Park hybrid. So again, what we heard was it felt very much like against the building was Plaza, and then it went to park. So we tried to integrate those elements where, you know, it's a 5,000 square foot space, so it isn't a lot, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough for everyone, you know, in terms of all of the requirements that we have to do, you know, per the Langston Boulevard area plan. But we introduced a BOSC, so we were able to add, you can see, increased tree canopy through the BOSC design. Revised accessible pathways with revised planting layouts, additional seating, areas for refuge. And again, we'll get into, you know, all the levels and the ramping and things and why that happened. However, again, this is just more of a response to that. Finally, I want to say too that, you know, we made sure that there were areas for open lawn, for open recreation. There is a little sculpture there at the southern, you know, west point. And then, like I said, increased lighting and safety throughout, which we'll show.
What is a BOSC?
A BOSC, you can see that very geometric shape. That's just a landscape term. It's called a BOSC. You'll see it in places in like New York, Bailey Park, places where it's very urban, but you're trying to get as much landscaping in and integrate both, you know, the hardscape and the landscape together. Yes. Okay, in these views, it's a little dark, but these are just updated views showing those spaces where you can see in the lower right-hand image, there's areas for you to sit, to recreate, to gather, to stay, to play. Try to, like I said, integrate as many items as possible per all of our requirements of the design guidelines. And again, you probably saw this, but just making sure that it feels welcoming, it's well lit. Something that we also have to do is make sure, because it is a public space, right? It's privately maintained public space, that it feels welcoming, that you can come anytime. You can come at dusk, you can walk your dog, things like that. Okay, and this is that north side that, I'm sorry, it's kind of like starting from the north to the south on the western side of the building adjacent to Route 66. So again, what we heard last time is it felt kind of cramped, maybe a little unwelcoming. So we made sure we added, you can see in the top left, areas for where we widened the sidewalk for benches and things like that. Pulled back the landscaping, at least, you know, graphically in these views. And then the lower left side is just the other side of that space. And then A and B on the right side is showing it in the dusk time frame. It's going to be well lit with bollards and lighting and signage. Okay, this side, again, I'm not going to get too much into, you know, the levels because Chris will be talking about that here soon. But again, just making sure a thing that we heard was there wasn't a nice definitive line between the pawn shop side and our side. So now I think there is the way that this has been redesigned. We'll talk about culverts and things soon, but having, you know, you can see the edge of the parking lot for the pawn shop property. And then we have the green space. We have a nice landscape buffer with trees and then a nice wide sidewalk. And you can see on the right side are those two same images on the left, but again, showing it well lit and inviting. And these are some images when we were speaking with Jackie and folks 2 days ago, just making sure we brought back some of these same images that haven't changed again, but this is the North Kirkwood side with that textural demonstration that Steve's talked about just a few minutes ago. Again, same Kirkwood frontage, showing the greenway, which we can, and I'm not going to get into any of the storm management. I'll leave that for you. Okay. So, okay. And it's okay.
I'm really sorry with this pen. I'm Mike Pinkowski again with FICA. So I just want to reorient everybody from a access perspective. The blue arrows represent the existing access points. Today, the site has 3 access points, 1 on Langston Boulevard, 2 on Kirkwood. The eastern or road right access point on Kirkwood is where the existing median break is today. The next slide, this slide highlights some of the multimodal infrastructure that's being implemented. So starting with number 1 in the bottom left there, that's where the proposed driveway location is going to be. We're going to consolidate the 3 driveways to a single access point. The red triangle represents the loading dock and the blue represents the access to the garage. At the I-66 off-ramp, we will be providing new ADA accessible ramps at that location. Number 3 represents the improved and planned Langston Boulevard streetscape. Number 4 is an improved bus stop. There is a bus stop there today. We will be adding a shelter at that location. Number 5, the number that's kind of floating off, there's an existing utility pole in front of the pawn shop. We'll be bringing that down with the development to improve that very narrow sidewalk today. It's very tough for anybody to even get by because of that light pole. 6 and 7, and Andrea kind of touched on this. It just represents the north-south connections, sidewalks and buffers along the boundaries of the property. Number 8 is the streetscape along Kirkwood, and we'll get into the sections in a minute. Number 9 represents the Kudo parking spaces that will be provided with the site. I know there's some concern about the number of spaces. There's an opportunity to potentially add another space underneath the number, but it would come at the cost of a tree in that location. And I'll just also note that while it's on the other side, there's about 16 parking spaces on the north side, northbound side of Kirkwood, and then along the pawn shop property southbound, there's an additional 4 parking spaces. And then number 10 represents some modifications to the median that we'll be making to provide access to the garage.
I guess question.
Can we hold all questions until after they do their presentation?
So this is the Langston Boulevard streetscape and plan view on the top, and then a section on the bottom. The section on the right-hand side is our side of the street, so 5-foot building zone, clear sidewalk, tree zone, protected bike lane, then a green zone between the bike lane and this. This is again, this is Kirkwood and plan view on top again, and then section on the bottom. In the section, our building is on the left side. So as I mentioned, 6-foot tree zone, 6-foot clear sidewalk, and a 2-foot buffer building zone. We did do a traffic study as part of this development. As Zach mentioned, this was originally submitted back in August of 24. We've been in close conversation with both DES and VDOT. We analyzed the on and off ramps, as well as the Spout Run, Kirkwood, Langston Boulevard intersection as part of that study. And you can see from the directional distribution at the Kirkwood intersection, I know that's a big topic of discussion. The two critical movements at that intersection are the eastbound left from Langston Boulevard onto Spout Run Parkway, and the left southbound coming from Spout Run to go eastbound onto Langston Boulevard. We're not adding traffic to either of those movements. Excuse me. As part of reviewing the timings of that intersection, we did identify an opportunity to optimize the traffic signal timings to help the overall delay of the intersection, mainly giving more time to that eastbound left on Langston Boulevard, so that you can help process the heavy left turn, especially in the PM. Excuse me. This is just the parking ratios. 325 residential parking spaces, meeting the zoning ordinance requirement. There'll be 31 additional retail parking spaces. Again, that's another opportunity for pickup drop off, the Ubers, the Uber Eats, the pizza guy. If those parking spaces on the street are occupied, they could pull into one of those spaces. The garage won't be gate controlled at the access point, so they'll be able to come into the garage. We're meeting the parking requirement for bicycles, both secure parking and class 2 or 3, the ones that are surrounding the site. And then we will be providing 2 loading berths. There is a requirement for 3. A third is kind of related to the retail component, but we believe that given the uses planned, that two spaces should be adequate. Again, Steve kind of touched on this, but this is just the ground level of the parking, and you can see the darker shaded spaces are the retail spaces. So there's numerous spaces available for either the retail or those short term trips. And this is the lower level. I just wanted to show this again. On the bottom left, that's the big secure bike parking area for residents, and there is an elevator in close proximity to it. These are the auto turn movements for the trucks. On the top is the WB40 in the larger berth on the right, and on the left, on the bottom is the SU30. So we're providing pretty much 2 docks that can manage any size single unit truck. And these are the proposal will be subject to a transportation demand management plan. These are the typical requirements that are laid out in the standard conditions, and we will work with staff post approval to implement a plan.
Thanks, Andrea. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Champagne. I'm an engineer with VICA, and I promise I only have 3 slides. But I do want to talk about 2 very important topics. One is stormwater management, and the second is flood mitigation and overland relief. The first slide I think that I have is simply a discussion about stormwater management, how we're going to deal with our water on our site. So I'm just talking about the water that falls from the sky, lands on our property, and how we treat, detain, and control it prior to releasing it into the stream, Chesapeake Bay. The site obviously is developed today, but what we're trying to do with the new development is to use what we call rainfall reducing stormwater techniques. So we're gonna try to grab that water, hold it and leave it here locally, let the plants take it up, let us use it on site and not discharge it immediately into the stream. So you'll see some green roofs that Andrea helped me with. So Andrea and I worked hard. You make her pretty green roofs, work for stormwater management. And those areas that we had to have a harder roof, we use what we call rooftop disconnection to a stormwater planter. So Andrea and I were working together in the orange areas and the green areas and the light blue areas to capture and treat the rainfall that actually falls on our site. The second slide I wanted to talk to you about is a larger, more community-based focus. If you want to take that sec. So our site is that little dot, that little red speck, that 2+ acre site sits in an 800-acre watershed. So 800 acres of Arlington County drain all the way to us and right underneath us, if you will. So there's a series of culverts that start at Kirkwood that go under the pawn. One of them actually physically goes under the pawn shop. The other culvert goes right between the pawn shop and us, goes under the parking lot at the Giant, down Spout Run Parkway, and takes it to the Potomac. So that 830 acres is what we have been, all of us together. I'm taking all the credit right now, but they really worked hard to help us find a solution that could work not just for our project, but for the community at large. So what we were able to do when Steve magnanimously allowed me to make his building a little bit narrower is we were able to create a 20-foot wide, almost pathway for the water. Because the culverts that exist today, they're pink on the right-hand side of the slide. So there's 2 existing culverts that are designed to take that large watershed. Unfortunately, those culverts don't have enough capacity. Climate change, urbanization, whatever it may be, those culverts, in essence, choke on the water when it comes. The water begins to back up and runs overland, hence the word overland relief, through our site. So what we've done by narrowing our building is created an opportunity for that water to safely get through. We've also, thanks to, I guess, Andrea working with the landscape plan and Cassie with a wallet, put in an 8x8 box culvert. So this is a culvert that's taller than me and wider than me. That's going to sit under that 20-foot wide hallway so that we can extend the culverts in the future, expand the capacity of the culverts to handle that water. One of the things, again, Steve helped me with is right now that 830 acres drains to those culverts under Kirkwood, and the regulatory FEMA 100-year water surface elevation ponds to an elevation of 176. So let's just say that's the top of this table. What we've all done working together is we have set the first floor of our brand new building 4 feet higher than that. So we're setting our building at 180. So that's why you might see some steps in the front on Langston and some ramping to get up to that retail. But some people call them small frequency storms, I call them large frequency storms, right? So a 100-year storm, a 500-year storm. What does that really mean? A 100-year storm doesn't necessarily mean a storm that happens every 100 years. In fact, what it means is it's a storm that has a 1% chance of happening in 2026. So we take a giant 100-sided die and we roll it on January 1st. And if we get a 5, we're all good. Nothing bad happens. But if we roll a 1, we're going to get a 100-year storm that year. 500-year storm, even larger die. Right now, a 500-sided die, and we got to roll a 1 or a 500, however you think. So we've done everything that we can to work with the community to try to create a building that can work today and work in the future. And then my second one, this is a cross section cut through on the top. It's the little gray box is the Walgreens from before, and the blue area represents the parking that was there. So before, when it rained, that water ran kind of across the parking lot and down to Langston. What I'm trying to show you in the bottom is how we, with our new building and the way we've lowered the 20+ foot wide area on the left of the building, on the right of the image, on the left of the building as you're walking, that area is able to convey that water safely around our building to Langston. And then ultimately it's going down Spout Run Parkway to Potomac River. So I kind of batted last year as the last guy going, but it was really all those guys who got on base who allowed me to deliver the speech today. But if you guys have any questions, I'll be here.
Did you want to mention, Chris, that this also shows the culvert in that area?
Well, I thought it wasn't without saying because it was big and red, but yes. Underneath. And, but yeah, that's the 8x8 box culvert underneath the sign.
Yeah, we'll take questions in a minute. Staff.
Yeah, because
Everyone wants to be architect.
all right. Sorry about that. Give this a second to correct itself.
We'll get to questions in a second, guys. Let's let Mr. Pfeiffer do his presentation.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Matt Pfeiffer with the Planning Division, Arlington County. I have a lot of slides that somewhat repeat kind of some of the information that you just heard from the applicant. So I will try to go through those quickly and or add the staff perspective from those. And then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Bryce Johnson in DES when we get to some of the meeting topic slides, specifically to talk about transportation, stormwater management, and streetscape. So you can see the agenda here. We're going to do clarifying questions. And then these are the agenda topics: stormwater management, transportation, parking, loading, streetscapes. And then we'll have the applicant talk a little bit about their sustainable design proposal. I have a slide on community benefits, any questions about construction issues, and then we'll do the project wrap up. Okay. So just an overview of where we are in the process. It's been a long time coming to get here. It was quite a technical review to get to this point. But this site plan was actually accepted a little bit over a year ago. So it's been quite a while that we've been reviewing this. We did an online engagement in January of this year. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then we had the first SPRC meeting in July 24th of this year. And here we are today, December 18th. Right now, we're anticipating that this project could be ready to go as early as Q1 2026. But we have a little bit of work still to do to get to that point. So just as a refresher, site location, we all know where we are here, but we are at the intersection of 4 different civic associations. And we have reps from all those folks at the table. So that's Cherrydale, Lyon Village, North Highlands, and Maywood. Again, here's some of the existing conditions. I think the applicant covered this pretty well. Just as a refresher, we have 3 different applications on file that we are reviewing. One is a GLUP amendment to amend the GLUP from the general land use plan from service commercial to medium office apartment hotel. A rezoning to rezone the site from C2 service commercial to CO 2.5, and then a new site plan, which we've heard about from the applicant. And there is a typo in this, and I apologize for that. This slide actually has the updated statistics. So you can see here now the applicant has revised their proposal to propose 300 units. And the base density for those 300 units is 185 units. So they are asking for 115 units of additional density above the base. And again, they are proposing about 7,500 square feet of ground floor retail. The building height is at 136 feet. In terms of parking, they are at 1.11 spaces per unit. They are meeting the zoning ordinance on that. And then in terms of zoning modifications, actually that's also a typo. They're not, they do no longer need a compact parking percentage modification. So apologies for that. We will have that cleaned up, the planning commission. So very quickly, I did want to touch on some of the changes that you just heard about from the applicant. Bryce is going to cover topics related to transportation, streetscapes, and stormwater management when he gets into his slides. But just briefly, you heard from the applicant that as a result of floodproofing measures that they were asked to implement by staff. The ground floor of the building is now raised to 180 feet. So prior to that, the building did meet the grade of the site. And so you had sort of a zero threshold retail environment, which, from an urban design standpoint is ideal. However, due to these flooding issues and due to, again, the changes that were specifically requested by staff, they have raised the building up to 180 feet. So now there is this ramping system that is required to occur on Langston Boulevard. And so we'll see in some of the pictures what the result of that is. So that is one thing. And we, are still going to be working with the applicant to see if there are different design improvements that can be made just to make that look a little bit more activated. But again, I do want to emphasize that those were changes that were specifically requested by staff to occur. Secondly, they have updated the design of the Park Plaza. You've heard about this as well. Again, as a result of the floodproofing measures, there is now a ramping system again that gets you up to that building lobby. And it is a little bit separated from the rest of the park. And so again, we're going to be working with the applicant just to see, are there any other kind of grading or other measures that can be accommodated just to kind of integrate that space a little bit more. And then finally, we did mention that we did notice that the artificial green wall has been added to the Kirkwood Road facade. And we just again ask, is there a way to provide a little bit further activation on this facade? We understand that this is the parking garage. They've done a lot of things, including decorative louvers and these green walls. But, we'll keep working with them on that. And then this slide sort of illustrates those points here. You can see the green walls on Kirkwood, the Kirkwood frontage. You can see here, this is this ramping system at the park, with a small seat wall that separates the park from the ramp and into the lobby here. And then finally, this is a little bit small, but you can see there are stairs up to the 180 feet of elevation at this retail corner. So before we get into the discussion topics and I hand this over to Bryce, I did want to just tie us back to the online engagement that we did almost a year ago and just repeat some feedback that we've already heard related to these three discussion topics that we're going to have tonight. So on stormwater management, we heard from SPRC members that they were looking for a little bit more clarification, I think, from staff on are they in conformance with the recommendations of Langston Boulevard Area Plan on overland? We're happy to talk about that this evening. From community members, we heard a common refrain that consolidation could help solve some flooding issues. We also heard that there was a concern that the 50-foot required overland relief corridor was not provided. And then we also heard just general concerns about flooding in the area and acknowledging that it's not necessarily a Rooney issue as much as it is a Arlington County issue. In terms of transportation, SPRC members wanted more information on pickup and drop off. There were concerns expressed about bike and pedestrian safety, especially at the intersection. From community members, there was concern about traffic congestion and operational issues given the proximity of the I-66 off ramps. There was concern about the amount of parking provided. And then on streetscapes from SPRC members, we heard a desire for pedestrian and bike improvements at Langston Boulevard. For community members, we heard that the site should be designed to prioritize pedestrian safety over vehicular access. And there was also a desire for wider sidewalks and streetscapes. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Bryce, and he will take us through some of the transportation and stormwater related topics.
Just wanted to test that was working.
Yep.
Okay. So again, my name is Bryce Johnson. I'm a principal planner in DES assigned to this project. So I'll cover the transportation as well as some of the overland relief. On the screen is a plan of the site, north oriented at the top. The applicant does propose a parking garage, so it'd be partially below grade garage up 4 levels. Be accessed from the rear of the building at Kirkwood Road. It's marked via the yellowish arrow. It's a little hard to see on there now. like I said before, it's 4 levels, 1 below grade level, 1 at grade, 2 above grade. Loading and trash will also be accessed from Kirkwood. That's the purple arrow on the screen. And then I will note that in providing access from Kirkwood Road, as was mentioned earlier, the applicant is removing 2 existing driveway entrances, one from Langston Boulevard and one from Kirkwood Road. To accommodate bicyclists, the applicant does propose 2 secure bike storage rooms within the garage. One will be for residents, they'll be in the low grade level of the garage, while a second one for retail staff will be at grade on the ground level of the garage. So there'll be a total of 142 bike parking spaces. That includes 128 secure spaces within the garage and 14 visitor spaces. 6 of those visitor spaces will be at the northwest corner of the site next to the I-66 off ramp. I shouldn't say next to, it's really on their property, a little bit away from it. But that corner of the site, and then another 6 of the visitor space, or sorry, the other 8 of the visitor spaces will be at the northeast corner of the site. And I will also note, as was mentioned earlier, there is the existing bus stop on Langston Boulevard that serves Arlington Transit. The applicant is proposing to enhance this with a bus shelter as well as an ADA accessible compliant landing pad. Okay, so now I'll review each of the street frontages, starting with Langston Boulevard. This slide shows a context plan on the left, and then we've got a cross section facing east on the right, as well as a summary of the changes in the table on the bottom. The applicant generally proposes to retain the existing Langston Boulevard street section, but will modify it just slightly to expand the streetscape a bit. For the street, the applicant proposes to reduce the total section from 93 to 92.5 feet, again, to increase the streetscape. And for the streetscape, the applicant proposes a 29-foot wide streetscape, includes a 3.5-foot wide landscape strip, a sidewalk level, a 5.5-foot wide bike facility, the bike lane, 6-foot wide tree zone, then a 9-foot wide sidewalk, and then a 5-foot wide building zone that is consistent with what the Langston Boulevard plan envisions for this section of Langston Boulevard. Where there is no bus stop, where there is the bus stop that I mentioned before, I will note that there won't be a tree zone. That's to allow the bike lane to route behind the bus stop and avoid conflicts between transit riders as well as bicyclists. And then again, the applicant is removing that existing driveway from Langston Boulevard, so they'll no longer have direct vehicle access from that street. However, I will note that Langston Boulevard is owned and maintained by VDOT, so they'll also need to approve any changes to this. Next, we'll review North Kirkwood Road. Compared to the cross section on the left side, we're facing northeast on Kirkwood. The applicants proposed a revised street section to accommodate the new access, but does generally propose to retain the existing street condition. These changes do include that the applicant proposes to close the easternmost driveway, as mentioned before, as well as the associated median break for that driveway. They will then reconfigure and widen the remaining driveway entrance to serve both the garage and loading, as well as provide a new median break for that entrance, and then widen a portion of the street to allow for that 8-foot wide on-street parking lane for the pickup and drop-off activities. The new street section will be about 44.5 feet wide. So we'll have the 6-foot wide southbound bike lane or bike facility, 11-foot wide southbound travel lane, 7.5-foot wide median with gutter pans on either side of that median, 11-foot wide northbound travel lane, and a 6-foot wide northbound bike facility or bike lane as well. Where there is on-street parking, this section will instead be about 50 feet wide compared to the typical section, that 8-foot wide parking lane, as well as a narrower 5-foot wide median. For the streetscape, the applicant proposes a typical 14-foot wide section, a 6-foot wide tree zone, as well as a 6-foot wide sidewalk and a 2-foot wide building zone. However, where the streetscape is between the parking and the proposed open space, there will be no tree zone or building zone. And next, I do want to highlight that the applicant proposes some key stormwater management features, as Chris covered earlier. This are proposed as part of the site plan. The area plan recommends a greenway along Kirkwood Road with the goal to provide overland relief for stormwater. This is shown on the image on the left. Overland relief, as was mentioned before, is a safe overflow path for runoff during storms when stormwater systems are otherwise overwhelmed. However, the area plan does note that the actual overland relief will need to be designed based on the site-specific conditions such as the topography and stormwater flow paths. This led to an extensive design process where the applicant worked with staff to assess the site's existing and proposed conditions under the 100-year storm. Again, that's the 24-hour period with a 1% chance to occur in any year. Based on the county's stormwater modeling under existing conditions during the 100-year storm, stormwater flows downhill along Kirkwood and through both the site and their neighboring site, and then onto Langston Boulevard. The area plan anticipates that new construction would consist of a single new building across both this site and the adjacent site, and that the greenway would then be provided to accommodate the new flow path for that building. However, the applicant does not control the neighboring site, and therefore the proposed building and resulting path are different than originally anticipated. Thus, the applicant worked with us to evaluate the flow path for the new building and determine how to best provide on-site mitigation that they themselves could deliver. Based on this, the discussions with staff, the applicant proposed an overland relief corridor along their eastern frontage, so the stormwater can flow directly toward Langston Boulevard. That's the path the stormwater wants to go. To accommodate this corridor, the building will be 20 feet from the eastern property line, and then the overland relief corridor will consist of a channel between the building and property line, and an approximately varying height, 1 foot retaining wall along the eastern property line, just to again help channel that stormwater, help keep the channel at a lower grade than their neighbor for that stormwater to go through. The area I'm talking about is marked in the dashed red line on the screen. However, I will note that based on our modeling, during the more intense storms, that stormwater is still going to go around the other side of the site. So the applicant is proposing an overland relief easement along their frontages, just essentially acknowledging that, yes, during those really intense storms, stormwater is going to go through. So residents, visitors are going to be warned that during those intense storms, those areas may be subject to flooding. And as well as what's mentioned before, the applicant does propose the 8x8 foot culvert underneath the overland relief path. So this culvert could then be extended in the future to increase the capacity of the public storm sewer system and reduce flooding in the area. So combined, these improvements provide short-term mitigation via the overland relief, as well as long-term management options via the culvert. And with that, I'm happy to turn this back over to Matt.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. All right. So the next slide we have is community benefits, and I'll spend a little bit of time on this slide just talking through this. I know we have some newer folks in the room that have not participated. Whole lot of SPRC meetings, so just by way of background. So the Arlington County zoning ordinance allows for site plan developments to utilize section 15.59, which means that they are allowed to request density above the base density for the zoning district. So in this case, in CO 2.5, which is what the applicant is requesting to rezone to, the base density is 115 units per acre. And based on their site size, this translates to 185 units of base density. And so the applicant is proposing 300 units, which puts them 115 units above the base density. So again, this is permitted by the zoning ordinance, and it's actually contemplated and planned for as part of the Langston Boulevard area plan as a way to implement plan objectives and recommendations. So this is expected. But I want, before we get into community benefits, because community benefits is a vague and undefined term, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the different buckets that we're looking at. So a site plan is not required to request additional density. If they were to come in and not request any additional density, what we would be looking for them to implement are things that we would say are standard site plan condition mitigations, right? And so those are things like new sidewalk, curb and gutter on all project frontages. They're things like undergrounding utilities, street trees and site landscaping maintenance. We have a standard contribution to the public art fund, a utility fund contribution, and a number of other things that we are expecting all site plan projects to do in order to mitigate the specific impacts of their project. Again, more things about that transportation demand management, as you heard the applicant talk about. And another thing I want to differentiate specifically is on-site stormwater management. So the applicant is required to detain, treat, and manage their stormwater is generated by their site. They are not, as part of their site plan mitigations, required to detain and treat and manage off-site water that flows potentially through their site. So that is, I just wanted to make that very clear for everyone. Now, the second bucket that we're kind of talking about here, and I didn't do a good job visually of separating them, because the applicant is requesting a general land use plan amendment, the Langston Boulevard area plan recommends a housing contribution. We call this informally an up-club contribution. And the Langston Boulevard area plan has very specific recommendations on up-club within the plan boundaries. And so what that is 20% of the delta of the density between the previous club designation, what they're changing it to, should become on-site affordable housing at 60% area media income. And then an additional 10% of that delta becomes on-site at between 60 and 80% area media income. So that's the up club bucket, and you can kind of think of that as a separate bucket. Then the third bucket, again, we get back to our 115 units of additional density that the applicant needs to earn. And so then again, the area plan has recommendations for how the applicant should earn that additional density. And it should do that via implementing specific recommendations of the plan. So this is the way that we get all of the nice things that we like about our plans implemented, is through this additional density. So specifically, the area plan recommends, and I'll go to our second bullet here, is 25% of any increased density. So 25% that of the housing contribution that they are going to provide should be on-site units at 60% AMI. Secondly, in terms of stormwater management, Bryce already talked about the 50-foot overland relief greenway. The plan also specifically recommends stormwater detention for off-site water. It also recommends flood mitigation and protection. And then in terms of sustainable design, the plan specifically recommends participation in the Green Building Incentive Program. In terms of transportation, specifically for this site, the plan recommends street and streetscape cross-section changes for both Langston Boulevard and North Kirkwood Road. It also recommends a new enhanced bike lane on Langston Boulevard. And then finally, in terms of the public space, the plan is recommending 5,000 square foot public park plaza hybrid that the applicant is providing. So those are basically the major plan recommendations for this site that fall into sort of the category of what we would ask for additional density. So as part of the discussion on this, what we really want to hear feedback from all of you tonight is, what of these things do you prioritize? What's important to you that is implemented with this site plan? So that's our last slide before we start talking about all of these agenda topics. Just once again, from the staff side, you can, if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to send any comments in writing to both myself and Bryce, or also Nia as well. Just a reminder, the next step in the process is going to be Planning Commission. So I'm going to go back to the agenda and I'll turn it back over to Nia.
All right, so we're scheduled to be done at 9. I just want everyone to know that it's important for all of us here that we want to make sure everyone is heard. So we may run over, just letting you know. I will try to keep the meeting running very efficiently, but we may run over. So let's start with, and please keep your comments to any clarifying questions for either the applicant or staff, not into discussion as you see we will get to. So any just, what does this mean? That kind of thing, not I think it should be or something like that. That would be part of the discussion. So clarifying questions only. Okay, first, well, right next to me.
So Jim Todd from Cherrydale, the developer, Zach, and everybody came and gave us a Zoom presentation on Tuesday. And I asked about no turn on red at the intersection of the I-66 off-ramp onto Langston. And they said that staff had originally asked about that, but backed off of that. And given that that is one of the two main building entrances, it seems like a zero cost. Yes, it takes VDOT approval, but a zero cost improvement for pedestrian safety. And so I would ask, this is a question for staff, why aren't you pressing for a no turn on red sign at that intersection?
So we were originally pressing for the no turn on red because under the original proposal, it was a dual crossing for both bike lane and pedestrians. That is a very strict requirement once you've got multiple users like that above and beyond a typical intersection. There needs to be no turn on red. It would still be a preference. However, just based on the traffic volumes through this area, it would require additional analysis because of the traffic coming from I-66 and then Langston Boulevard. We would, again, happy to have it, but it would need additional analysis.
I mean, so I guess I'm supposed to say this for later, but please ask. And I want to praise the county because you have added no turn on red signs all over the place in the past couple of years. And I think it's been a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Yeah, so hold anything
Okay.
for further discussion about transportation to that.
Yeah, true clarifications. So I think I'm a little bit confused about what's happened to the laybys and what that's going to do to Kirkwood. And then second clarification, can you just repeat what's happening with the former masonette facade and the distance to the property line and what's driving changes there? I'm sure you said it, I'm just confused.
So we lost one of the laybys that we'd added from the last SPRC, and that was because of the shifting of the building on Kirkwood to create the overland relief corridor next to the pawn shop site. We still have the pickup and drop off lay-by where the entrance is going to be, the secondary entrance, which are 2 spaces. But we initially added 2, now we still have 1. So that's the answer on the lay-by.
We could kill a tree and add another, is that what we heard?
That's yes, that's what we heard.
Lot
As far as the masonettes go, they've been gone for a bit now, sadly. Where the building is now is the same place it was when we had the masonettes. So the building is shifted back to where it was, but we haven't been able to add, we can't add the masonettes back now because we've lost the area along the pawn shop site. We would have had for parking and things like that. So fortunately, the masonettes were a casualty of the stormwater and overland relief analysis.
Got a couple of questions. They're all related. It's admirable the work that's been done on stormwater, and we want to thank you for that. However, one of the questions and issues are, what are the impacts what are the things we've lost that we valued in trying to do that? And so what I want to do is partly what you said, have a better understanding of what that short space is where the 12 stories now comes all the way up to the edge of Kirkwood, whereas before it was set back, and I want to know how much change there is there. Secondly, the tree space along Kirkwood was changed from 6 foot from 8 feet and during that space to 6 feet. And I want to know, how does that affect the size of tree that we'll be able to have there? And then third, I want to know whatever suggestions are being discussed to, you call it activate, but to mitigate having a garage wall be the pedestrian walkway all along Kirkwood. Which to me, now that it doesn't have the green space in front of it, it's all, you're going to have pedestrians really right up against that garage. So what can be done? So those were 3 things. Tree, that short space where the L now comes all the way out, and it didn't before. And in that same space, I'm asking about also shortening the tree wells, also having only garage without having the green pathway now moved internally instead of along Kirkwood. So we've lost all of the green space that was separating Kirkwood from the garage.
As far as the tower did not move at all. What we did is we pulled the base further back to give it a larger park plaza area. So the tower didn't move.
So it
The
still comes
conceivable-
right up to Kirkwood?
Well, it didn't change at all. The location of the tower did not change. It's
I
the
thought
base, the
I
base
thought it was set back.
further out, so it looked like there was more.
Well,
That's
and the
conceivable.
fact that it isn't set back is still an issue. But
Clarifying questions.
but the clarifying question is, for that short space between that part of the L and where the entrance and exits are for the garage, that no longer has a greenway. What does that mean in terms of those smaller, now smaller tree space, smaller space between the building and the green space? So now people are right up against the garage. And the trees are clearly not going to be able to be the same size.
Oh, yeah, I can talk about the trees. So
Unless you're at the table, your questions will have to be part of public comment at the
I
end.
know, but I have to leave in a few minutes, and I had a question which somewhat relates to Jackie, a clarification.
Can you write it down for me and we'll ask it? I'll make sure that you get the answer to it.
What a process, that's what I'm going to say. What a
Claire,
process.
you just write it down and I'll ask it.
Yes. Yes.
It has to do with one of the slides
Fine.
presented early on.
Yep, I'll talk about the trees.
Why don't you go ahead?
So the tree space, Jackie, whether it's 8 or 6, that's enough, that's an adequate soil. What we're trying to do is make sure there's adequate soil volume.
Right.
Out there now, these trees they can grow in little 2-foot spaces. So a 6-foot space, we have a nice, long, linear, area for really sizable, medium to large tree. We make sure that the soil volume is being met, and there's 8 trees now along that side. So they're gonna do just.
So these are existing trees you're talking.
No, I'm just saying that trees out there now are, you can see are in these tiny little tree wells that are like 2 and 3 feet.
Yeah.
A nice 6-foot space is enough county requirement to, have the soil.
So
volume.
the 8-foot won't change the size of the tree. Okay, and what is the distance now between the street, the sidewalk? It's that distances between the street, whatever green there is, the sidewalk, whatever green there is, and the garage. That's been narrowed a lot, and I can't quite visualize what the pieces are of each of that.
Do you all have a graph that
We do.
can possibly illustrate this better? for them?
14.5 feet from the
I
building.
was looking at slide 15 and the numbers that were there, but I couldn't add them up.
I can share my screen. if That helps.
Don't tear that up.
It's 14.5 feet. Base of building to base of curb. Front curb.
6-foot tree zone, 6-foot clear sidewalk, and a 2-foot buffer.
Hold on just a second, Jackie, want to hear that?
Yes, I do. Technically. Yes,
Hold on just a second.
I'm sorry. It's the same question. Go ahead.
It's 14.5 feet from the face.
14 and a half feet.
Face of the
And
building to the front of the curb. That's what it was when we filed the project. We moved the building back initially because there was a thought that that's where we should add more overland relief.
I know, of course, I like the land relief there, but I don't control the water either.
And much of the last 5 months has been analyzing staff and determining that, in fact, that's really not where the overland relief should be.
I know.
And so we moved it, if you will, to the area between the pawn shop site and our site.
Right.
Because based on the analysis that's been run by the county and by Chris and his team.
I got that. I
That's
just wanted to know what we're left with.
Yeah, 14.5 feet.
And it had been, at one point, it was boosted to like 30 feet. So we've
No,
gone
it was
from like,
10 additional feet. It was 10 additional.
So it's 24 and.
It was
and
24.
Just a reminder, we do have more space now between the pawn shop and our face of building. So we have set that back as well. An additional, anything that we've had to take back along Kirkwood is the additional setback between us and the pawn shop.
I know, I'm only looking at it from
I
the
understand.
Kirkwood Street pedestrian.
That's fair.
perspective.
The clarifying sense of the context, the full context of what's happening along that side of the facade of the building.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm gonna go online first before coming here. Karen, you have a clarifying question?
Hi, it's Karen O'Donnell from the Disability Advisory Commission. I have many, but I'll ask one. If you could address accessibility for that elevated ramped area and the area with the steps.
Are you talking about along Langston Boulevard or?
Yes, the 180 feet, 180 feet, excuse me, and the retail that is ramped.
Yeah, I mean, the ramp starts where the lobby at the very northwest corner is. And then it pretty much is flat all the way along Langston Boulevard. And there is a set of stairs that go down at the very northeast corner where the major retail entrance is. And then as you turn around the corner, you go about 20 feet, and then there's another ramp that takes you down along the east side of the building.
So if I'm in a 400-pound motorized wheelchair, that will be accessible for me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And
Eric.
Eric,
Yeah, I sort of want to follow on with that from the pedestrian perspective and just, is it possible that you can kind of show us what that looks like? And then also I wanted to know on the, I guess it's the west side from that sort of a new park area all the way to the retail, is that walkway or sidewalk, is that a public sidewalk or is that a private sidewalk to the entrance where the retail is?
It's a public sidewalk. The sidewalk's public. And I can share my screen to show that area that we were just talking about.
But so how do you get, I guess, how do you get from there up to the retail area? I'm still not sure I see that.
This is the retail entrance that you're looking at here. And you can access it from the front. There's stairs and there's ramps on both sides that you can access it as well.
And how wide are the ramps that get you there?
5 feet. 5-foot ramp. And actually,
Eric, really sorry, Steve. Eric, this is Chris. So as Langston climbs in grade to go under I-66 and the distance in this view, the existing sidewalk in the existing grade for everybody sits at elevation 180. So it'd be at that spot where the sidewalk is already up at 180. And as Langston starts to drop, you could stay up on top of that wall if you're in a wheelchair and traverse the whole front of the building and stay up at 180. And then we put a secondary ramp, which is on the left-hand side of the picture, where again, the grade starts to drop off going back to Kirkwood. So that lets you get safely down from that perch up at 180. But it starts at grade. When you get off of I-66, you're kind of sitting at 180 already. So you're already up. Does that help, Eric?
That does. And I assume this will be ADA graded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. I thank you. Appreciate it.
on this side, because you guys have been waiting, before I go back to online, down at this end, let's start down there. Any
I have a
clarification?
community benefit, but we're not on that.
Not on yet. Thank you. I love the way you're following this. I love it. Any other clarifying questions?
Yes, you can go. My question, I think, is for the gentleman in the blue. I think your name is Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
So my clarifying question regards the median on Kirkwood. There's presently, as I understand it, only one break in the median for traffic on Kirkwood to make a left into that site. Will there be another break opposite of where the two Pudo areas are? Or
So we're gonna close the existing median bridge, open up the median where the driveway is proposed.
okay, so one median,
One median,
but the Pudos are further south.
correct,
There will not be a break there.
correct.
So if cars wanna, coming towards Langston, wanna swing in there, they're gonna have to go to the same median break as traffic going into the garage and then turn around and come back south to get to the Pudos. Is that correct?
You lost me a little, but I think if you're coming north on Kirkwood, you would have to do a U-turn effectively to
Yeah.
go into those spaces.
Okay. Has there been any thought to putting a second median break in to avoid having that traffic having to make that U-turn and clogging that one median break?
But as I mentioned, there is, I know everybody wants to get close to the building. There are parking spaces for northbound traffic on the east side. Two median breaks really start to cause traffic issues from a spacing perspective. So that having one access point, one median break is more ideal for safety.
Thank you.
Questions for Andrea, I think. Two quick questions. One, does the plan meet the 35% tree canopy target for Langston Boulevard? And secondly, my recollection from the walkthrough, there's a row of trees, existing mature trees on the pawn shop side of the property next to the overland relief. Are they still there? Will they stay there once this is?
I'm proud to say that yes, we still meet that percent. It's been tough, but we do meet it. We are making sure. Yes,
We can't hear.
we meet the 35%, and it was difficult. It's hard to meet at this site, but we do meet it. And mature trees, so there are some mature trees on, you're talking about off-site on the pawn shop.
On the pawn shop side.
Those will remain. Anything, yeah. The trees that are on site, we looked into saving some of them. We actually talked with staff. We did some review, and they're all invasive and hazardous. So where the Plaza Park hybrid is, they have to leave. We tried to save them, but no way.
My two questions are regarding, one's regarding the bike lane. Is it protected or with stanchions, or is it separated from the roadway, or
On Langston Boulevard,
on Kirkwood? I know on Langston Boulevard, you already have the setback in the plan.
it is not a protected bike lane. Or on Kirkwood.
And then the other question is, thank you for all your stormwater management. Is the driveway, because the parking garage is not, could be partially below grade, is there gonna be is the driveway entrance elevated or to mitigate?
Yes.
Ramp
Look
up to one.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Let's go back online. Tenley?
Thank you. Two quick questions. One, I continue to love all of the trees that you've got on your patio, raised patio area. I just wanted to confirm that staff do feel like there's enough dirt up there that the trees will actually be able to grow to the heights that are on display in the pictures. That's my first question.
Yeah, Tenley, we are actually still reviewing that right now. And so we'll be able to come forward at the planning commission with that answer, but I don't have that for you right now.
Okay, one of the reasons I really like this project is because of all that beautiful biophilia. So I hope that that is a site plan condition. Sorry, I'm getting into no longer clarifying questions. Okay, second question is for the ramp that is on the north side, do you have pictures of what that looks like, not just from the corner, but from like looking just from the north at the north side of the building? And are there any access points onto the ramp other than like kind of mid ramp? Like if you're wanting to enter retail at mid block, do you have to walk to one of the ends of the ramp to get there? Or will there be stairs up to the ramp to get to the retail in a more direct way?
No, just the stairs at the very corner, because if you had stairs, then they would come out into the sidewalk area. So So it's access of either end or the staircase.
Okay, if you can bring, pick more pictures for the planning commission, that'll help me better understand like the access that pedestrians will have to retail.
So we do, Zach, I think you do have some pictures that display from Langston Boulevard pretty clearly.
Like if a pedestrian sees a shop or a restaurant that they want to go to, are they going to have to walk like 60 feet out of the way to get to it? And then maybe they choose not to and just keep walking. Is my concern.
Zach, could you pull up the image from Langston? I think it's actually in the architecturals, not in the landscape. Yes. There you go.
Yeah, so, okay, so if somebody wanted to go to that like fourth, like kind of mid-block, they're gonna have to walk quite a ways to get up to the restaurant that they want or the shop that they want to go to, the
You're
retail.
asking if they want to use the ramp and not the stairs.
No, they're wanting to see if there's a point between the two.
Oh, so you do have to start at these stairs to walk down that ramp, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And that's really to keep a clear sidewalk.
Mhm.
Right. Last clarifying question, Jackie, you had one more?
Oh, I have a similar one. When you were talking about the plaza, you said you could walk at dusk and it was going to be lit properly. But I want to make sure, number one, that the lighting is going to be at that location and not projecting out. And then the second thing was you said almost as an aside, so you could walk your dog at dusk. And that scared me because this is not a dog park.
Just meant anybody who is walking, you don't feel, I didn't mean it to.
Okay, but there's no dog park.
No, it just means you can walk.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now moving on to the agenda, woo-hoo, which I believe is stormwater management.
Hey, this is Laura. I do have a clarifying question. If, I don't know if you can tell if my hand is up.
Excuse me, Laura, who are you representing?
I'm part of DRCA.
What is the?
It's a civic association.
Yeah, so I don't, Laura.
Yeah, Laura, unfortunately, the four abutting civic associations are represented here. You are certainly welcome to have any comment or any question during public comment. Just write that in the chat that you want to do that. But unfortunately, for discussion purposes, it's just the members who are at the table now. So thank you.
Okay,
Laura,
thank
added
you.
To the public comment list.
Thank you. All right, so yes, questions regarding stormwater management and overland relief. I just want to comment, having chatted back and forth with Matt over several months, because I'm also the SPRC chair, so all the queues and all the projects that are coming up and always revisiting what's going on with projects, also chairing this one. It's my understanding that the time and unquestionable money that was spent by the applicant, I just have to say, I think they came up with 5 different plans of options to address a very important topic for all of us in the county. So I just want to commend you for doing that. So questions, comments, concerns, stormwater management and overland relief. Peter, thank you.
I want to do exactly what you did, Chair, and compliment the applicant on what they've done on both stormwater management and overland relief. And then I guess this is more a comment pointed towards county staff than the applicant. It's not enough. It's never enough. 2000 in a 100-year storm, the year 2000 in Houston is a 25-year storm now. In New York City, it's a 20-year storm. I don't know what it is for Arlington, but it's changed dramatically. It's 20. And we have regulatory requirements that the and very good actions that the applicant has done, and they're to be commended for that. Circumstances change and plans for the building can change. This is just one where we can't give an inch because everything we do is not going to be enough to deal with storms that come.
Actually, I have a tiny question about stormwater. So we've heard about 100-year storms. I believe in both 2018 and 2019, we had 500-year storms that hit this watershed. And we had, one of them had a rain rate of 9.5 inches an hour, which is actually 7.75 inches in 45 minutes. Happens to this building in a 500-year storm? Has anyone looked at that?
We were working with the applicant through focusing on the 100-year storm. I can't speak exactly to what would happen for the 500-year storm. But I would also say that the storms that happened since 2019, we're not entirely sure what year storm those were. But again, we've been working with the applicant to do what they can on their site to address the mitigation for the area plan.
The applicant has something they'd like to say.
Not really. I guess I want to say that maybe a little bit different than Bryce. I mean, when you talk about a frequency storm, whether it's a 100-year or a 500-year or more than that, one of the big things to understand is the duration of the storm that you're evaluating. So you could have a quick thunderstorm, 5 o'clock at night, where it drops a couple of inches of rain right away. And that could be a 100-year, 3-hour event. But when you look at a 24-hour event, that might only be, some people might describe it as a 10-year storm. So you need to be careful when you're talking about frequency storms. That said, the FEMA regulatory floodplain, which I'm not saying is the latest and the greatest, but that does predict a 500-year water surface elevation and a 100-year water surface elevation. And we are several feet above both of them. That's not to say that if you look at the urbanization that's happened since the FEMA maps and all that stuff, that it's truly the 500-year event today. And certainly if you have a 500-year, 24-hour storm where 17 inches of rain falls in a day, that's going to be a significant event.
Factual. The FEMA floodplain does not cover this area, as you know. What covers the predictions for this area is the ramp that was done by Arlington County, and it is the urban flooding that will be there. It's not FEMA floodplain, which is only applies to where there is open water. Because this is all already in a culvert, it's not covered by FEMA. It's an
800-acre watershed that's FEMA regulates. So
I understand. I'm retired FEMA.
I
Just saying, that does not apply.
It's not apples to apples.
And therefore, what's been done, I think, it's at the point where it can mitigate this building flooding. I think that's the biggest impact that it is. It's by raising it and having the channel other water around it. You're basically avoiding the water from upstream, adding to the flooding there. But it doesn't do anything to prevent downstream flooding. We have got a lot of work all along Langston to do on this.
This might be more for Bryce, but will all this stormwater mitigation help alleviate some of the stress at that corner of Kirkwood and Langston? Since I know that often floods whenever there is a downpour, usually around 5 o'clock in the summer.
So the culvert definitely has the potential for that, especially long term. That's part of, I'll be a little transparent. Staff was actually very excited about that, even though the plan didn't originally anticipate it, because of the long-term mitigation it offers. The flooding that happens at the intersection, actually primarily based on the modeling, stems from Langston. So where their site is and where the area plan envisions, the greenway, and where it originally wanted the stormwater to go to accommodate one building, the water isn't going to it from necessarily the site or Scott Run, it's channel, well, I guess indirectly because it channels to Langston. That said, we did look at the impacts to the rest of the area from their building, and that's where we're running the modeling. And it's about the same. So that's where we were just trying to figure out, okay, what can be done to address that short-term mitigation as well as the long-term.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But it just, kind of along the same lines as, how, to what extent does the proposals actually meet some of what the county was looking at in terms of the broader planning in the ramp and in the Langston Boulevard area in terms of managing the whole that run. Though recognizing that you can't do everything in one development, and this was added to the fact that they couldn't integrate the pawn shop with that, but is to the extent of how well and how much does this help the county in some of their long-term stormwater planning?
It definitely helps. And again, it's a little bit different than originally anticipated because the two sites aren't combined.
Yeah, the answer, we asked the question yesterday or day before, whenever we met with you all. And I think that was one of the things that mattered to me. And I think it's what you're referring to. But by putting that vault there and by moving the stormwater overland relief to that area and giving an easement, my question was, does this mean that in the future, if the county wanted to enlarge the capacity of that pink culvert that's the culvert that's on the left, that the county would be able to go in and do county mitigation to increase the capacity of that culvert? The answer I got from Venable was yes, but to ask,
Yes.
so
it wouldn't just be increasing well, I guess it is increasing capacity because we would want to extend it. So that way the actual storm system can handle much more than it can today.
I mean, you could get in and enlarge that culvert now, whereas before you wouldn't have been able to.
That's all. Final question on. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just for my knowledge. I was curious about, and I don't know if this is for the applicant or for the county, but if this area, worst case scenario, floods, that the building basically becomes an island. Stop.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
I mean, it's okay. I just want to know.
That's part of the overlay relief easement language that we've been discussing with the applicant. Again, that's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
During
yeah.
those more intense storms. And again, the actual degree that those storms have, the period of the rainfall, like Chris was saying, that could be anytime within a 24-hour period. If it happens all at once, yes, it can be really extreme. If it's spread out over the course of a day, a bit less extreme. However, residents, retail visitors will be aware per the pending site plan conditions that there is the potential for that.
I was just curious.
All right, transportation, parking and loading.
My question is about transportation, but regarding community benefit related to transportation. Should I ask that now or wait till community benefits?
Get it, transportation.
Yeah.
I think we all.
Trying to play by the rules, yeah.
Thank you. That's very good. Follow his stance.
So let me pose the question then if you want.
Yes.
Later, okay. So my question is this, as I look at the community benefits related to transportation, I'm concerned that they are primarily at the site, benefiting your ability to market to future tenants the goodness of this property, but they're not really helping the larger community. One thing I would like to propose and ask is what transportation related community benefits would you be able to provide that actually would help the greater community? And as an example, the Custis Trail is very close to your site, and in both directions, it's a mess. It needs to be redone. A lot of people who live in that building will use it. A lot of people in the immediate community of these 4 civic organizations use that Custis Trail. It would be an enormous community benefit, in my opinion, if Rooney would address fixing the Custis Trail in both directions from some distance of the site right there to make it better useful for all these users.
And again, going back to Mr. Pfeiffer pointing out that he wanted to hear a prioritization from us, so thank you. All right.
Can I get an answer though?
Oh, okay.
I think that's a fair ask, something we haven't looked at this point, happy to.
Thank you.
So I think we saw some analysis and modeling from site generation trips. Do we have data and modeling around now and future traffic volume along 29, Spout Run, Kirkwood? And I think more importantly, have staff or VICA looked at killed and seriously injured statistics and near misses at this intersection? If you have, can you share them? And if you haven't done that analysis, I'd ask why have we not done that?
You want to take the traffic analysis? I can speak to the near misses. If you want to.
I mean, as far as like the traffic forecasts, we look at build out horizon year. We look at approved but unbuilt developments in the area, as well as applying a growth rate to existing baseline traffic volumes. So those are incorporated into the analysis that we do for, say, we did the counts in 27, so we were forecasting, say, 23rd versus 24. So we were looking at a 27, 28 year build out. So we forecast the traffic with a 0.5% growth rate and looked at that and evaluated that against, what's out there today. And added.
Can you share that? Can you share that? I don't think I saw it in the.
I mean, it's part of our traffic study. I don't have it here per se.
Get that to you, Aaron.
Yeah, we can certainly get you. And I think the multimodal traffic study is posted on the project webpage also.
Yeah, and then as far as the traffic deaths, near misses, those the county does keep an eye on that. And trying to think of how to best phrase this. So we do have the Langston Boulevard Area 5 corridor study that will be commencing hopefully late next year or early 2027. We're looking at Area 5 of Langston Boulevard, the entire corridor, not just intersections, really focusing on those safety improvements. However, we do have other transportation programs that look at more immediate and short-term improvements. So for example, there was the RRFB, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that were installed, I think it was earlier this year on Spout Run. That was in response to an incident. I've gone back and forth with our Vision Zero team a couple times just to kind of keep an eye on what is happening here. And again, they're aware, they're always happy to take in suggestions if you want to reach out to them. But this is something that staff does actively keep an eye on. Similarly, we are continuing to look at the intersection of Spout Run and Langston Boulevard. We're well aware the community has concerns about. We also have concerns about that. And we're, again, keeping engaged with VDOT to look at different improvements. We've actually been working on it, some mostly signal improvements to the intersection. But as part of that, looking at more long-term other ways to improve that intersection for pedestrians and people.
Fine, all of them, then I'll go silent, but thank you. It seems to me that I'll oversimplify a great degree for effect, but the project of fewer people dying and fewer people in the hospital and the project of building this building are not coordinated. It's kind of concerning. They seem to be on different timelines.
Again, trying to think of how to best phrase that. We can't hold them up for what's existing conditions. We can only evaluate what their impact is. And that's what the MMTA comes in handy for. But we have those other avenues to address the existing conditions.
I guess I would like to just a couple of things about transportation. And I've been banging this drum since Rooney first came to us. And I appreciate everyone continuing to listen to me hammer on this. But this is not just one intersection. In fact, this building, of course, is not even technically at the Spout Run intersection. It's two intersections and a de facto crosswalk. And in fact, when Takis came for the county 2x2s, he himself availed himself of the de facto crosswalk between the Lion Village Shopping Center driveway and the current driveway to the now defunct Walgreens, and ran across 7 lanes of traffic and had an uncomfortably close encounter with a car. And that was midday, not even crazy rush hour. And as people have noticed, PM rush hour is now worse on that stretch of Langston than AM rush hour. No idea why, but much, much worse. If the developer is using its community benefits up, so I think this is a transportation appropriate question, stop me if I'm wrong, using its community benefits up on this much needed and much lauded stormwater efforts. I think that, and I think that Aaron's getting at this, I think all the civic positions are getting at this. We are, as the public, as the civic associations are seeking, and we realize this is a county board level decision, not a staff decision, but we want you to be aware of it now, that the county board accelerate and reprioritize its analysis and its safety and improvement projects for Langston to put this intersection, this stretch of Langston, 3100 block first, accelerating the 2027 study now, and more than accelerating, implementing the recommendations to that study with funding, for example, from the VDOT line, the VDOT lane widening that has been in the county coffers, I believe, for a decade now. And that's, as I understand it, $20 million. That starts to actually improve the experience of pedestrians, the safety of cyclists, and the safety of drivers. And so we would like to see, and as Aaron's getting at, if the county board, if there were a direction as part of this site plan improvement from the county board to the manager to reprioritize and accelerate that, then by the time this building comes online in 2029, perhaps many of these pedestrian safety improvement redesign of the stretch of Langston could be underway as opposed to merely being studied. And I think that's a huge priority for the community. The whole reason we got behind Langston Boulevard, the plan Langston Boulevard, the reason it was a citizen initiative was that we want to, just to be really cliche and go back in time here, transform Langston Boulevard from a speedway to cars to a series of interconnected neighborhood main streets. And a neighborhood main street is not 7 lanes wide. It does not have cars going 50 miles an hour. It does not have cars making a right on red off an off ramp at 30 and 40 miles an hour off the interstate to essentially get back on another highway, which is Spout Run Parkway and GW Parkway. And so we would love to do anything we can to, again, I understand that this is the county board, but we want the staff to be aware that we think that there is enough public sentiment behind this to be prepared for this to accelerate, to move up, and to really consider this entire stretch and to make that there are shorter light cycle blocks right in Cherrydale where there's only 200 or 300 feet. I think there needs to be a whole nother red light intersection at this de facto crosswalk at this retail entrance for this, 7,000 feet of retail space, and the Lion Village Shopping Center, which isn't going anywhere, or someday will be 12 to 15 stories high and have that many more families and shoppers there. So we really want.
So I just want to make a comment for a second. When this comes to the planning commission, we can certainly make a motion to flag this for the county board. So I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying that it is. If you've been to enough of these SPRCs, you know that it does happen. Jackie had her hand up and then you.
Yeah, just to put a point on it. The 4 civic associations, it's been a top priority that we've been talking about. And we are asking the board, we ask you as the SPRC and also as the planning commission, we're not trying to stop the project. We're absolutely not doing that. But we want the county to step up and make a commitment to us and to this site and all of the development on Langston Boulevard.
Future tenants.
That, yes, and the future tenants, that they will commit to expediting this study. That's what we want them to do. And so that
we can't make that happen here at SPRC. But your comments right now are already on.
And you can make a recommendation, the planning commission, we'd like to see the planning commission make a recommendation to the board.
Make sure that you speak that way.
To expedite this so that for all of us and from Lion Village's point of view, for our future residents at this site, we want it to be safe.
Yeah, I'll definitely associate myself with Jim Todd's comments here. I've been working on Langston Boulevard for 13 years. And transportation has always been like the first thing. Pedestrian safety has been a constant theme for those 13 years. this site, the building itself is fine, the proposals from the developer, I have no arguments with. It's the transportation issues that are involved around it, and they're not the developer's issue. They're the county's and VDOT's issue. We had a meeting recently that Jackie sponsored with DES about exactly these things. And it's really clear that this has to be looked at holistically and it has to be up and down. We will raise it at planning.
Yes.
Absolutely. But a couple of more detailed things, just I want to go around the project quickly. At the south end, that third spot in the Pudo is necessary. 2 really isn't enough for the size of this building. It really should be minimum 3. There's room for it. We really have to have that there. Going up toward where we have the main lobby right on Langston and the entrance to the interstate, and the exits to the interstate. Maybe to make it safe there, because there's going to be a desire for Pudos to stop there and run in with a pizza to the lobby. As much as you try not to, they're going to try to do that. Maybe what we really need to put here as an interim before Langston Boulevard gets refigured out is a fence, maybe 3-4 feet high, from the ramp, 66 ramp, to the end of the property here, so that if somebody stops and they open the door, they can't run to the building. They cannot physically get from the street to the building by having a fence there, and that'll stop the parking. Those stops right there and force people to go around the corner. And it could be an interim until Langston Boulevard gets redesigned, which is in the plan Langston Boulevard, to have it narrow. You can, we had that on one of the slides here. These are all, parking is fine. This is not unfortunately, Langston Boulevard is not transit oriented. We don't have great robust bus service. So an over 1 to 1.0 parking ratio is necessary. I have no concerns about that. And that's because we don't have enough bus service. Once the bus service, if we can get that to be more robust, then I'd be willing to look at lower ratios, but not now for this particular site, given what we're doing. So, it really comes down to not Rooney. It comes down to VDOT and DES and getting those studies done sooner rather than later. We've been promised this for 13 years. And waiting yet another 2 years to just start it just doesn't work. Especially because this is the number 2 Vision Zero challenge intersection in the county. Both Spout Run and Langston Boulevard. So anyway, that's my rant on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to align myself with the very serious concerns that we all have with delay in this traffic study. Just as we were meeting, there was 2 pedestrians that were hit in Ballston. And so I do think this is really urgent. And I also wanted to support the comments about staff pushing for the no turn on red at the intersection where the entrance of the building will be. I think we really want people to be able to walk west to some of the retail that we have up the street. We want people to walk up the street to this new location where we'll have some ground level retail. And I want to make sure that that is as safe as possible for people who are walking, rolling, biking, any of the multimodal transit options. Thank you.
Wearing my other hat, I'm president of the North Roslyn Civic Association. I want to associate myself with the transportation. We are Vision Zero number 1, Langston Boulevard and North Lynn Street as far as the worst intersections. We have one Roslyn being developed. We have Hilton that was just developed. And we have Rebel that's being developed on the east side lane of Langston Boulevard. And we have transportation issues. And again, it's not the developers, it's VDOT in Arlington County. So I want to associate myself there. The other one real quick, based on Lucky Gardens, we have no bus service. So you're putting in a bus thing on Langston.
There's already a bus stop there.
The bus stop, I guess, is ART.
ART 55.
So ART is the only transportation there, but not Metro. Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna move us on, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll concur with everybody else, but I did want to actually shift to something else, but
you know, what are the plans for making or having EV charging both ready? You know, both installed and actually final personal transition.
We're providing 4% supply EV day one and up to 15% EV ready, so an additional 11%.
Yeah, but that's not gonna cut it over the life of this building. You know, what are you thinking about to be able to make this ability to charge? And are you thinking about actually charging for charging for electric bikes as well?
Charging for electric bikes, and we'll look at the parking spots. We'll follow what the demand is.
Say one thing.
Yeah, right.
I understand that there's a lot of concern about the transportation safety here. Staff is well aware. I've talked to staff about this, just try to keep up to date. I do want to say that I appreciate continuing to hear the feedback, and I hope you all continue to be engaged with staff through the other venues that you already have. So I just wanted to, again, say thank you.
All right, so let's move on now to streetscapes.
Is this a question time or a comment time?
Well, we've passed the clarifying questions. We're into comment debate. Nice, civil.
Sure, of course. Always. So I'm with the Forestry and Natural Resources Commission. I want to remind everybody, as I always do, that there's a Forestry and Natural Resources Plan. It has a 40% tree canopy coverage target. We are well below that target. We are not making progress toward that target. In addition, the county has recently prioritized climate change, and we've been talking all night about stormwater impacts and 500-year storms and things like that. I would also point out heat islands. And so I think trees are an essential part of the solution for these problems. So the comments I'm going to make, I'm going to offer some pretty rapid fire recommendations. We'll be looking at you over in the corner. So take your pen out. I went back, I think for my commission, maximum canopy shade is paramount. Canopy shade, not ornamentals. And so it's not just a countywide benefit, it's for the people who live there. I keep going back to Tinley's comment that she and I and many others would like to see Arlington not as a community with trees, but as a urban forest with a community. And I applaud your efforts to hit that 35% goal. So I know you're working hard to do that. So these comments are more fine tuning, but frankly, some of the things I raised in July, I appreciate you're addressing a lot of comments. Some of the comments I raised weren't addressed. So I'm going to repeat them here and you can take another look at them. So number one, for all the trees at ground level, this is on the streets, in the plaza, in the little mini forest, along that northwest corridor where the walkway is, we recommend that all the trees be tall shade trees, not ornamentals. Right now, your walkway has ornamentals. So we'd like to have you consider having taller trees. And a lot of concern about this, looking at the side of the building, a big tall shade tree is a great buffer to help the neighborhood not have to look at your big giant building. So I think I would recommend that you look and see that, try to have native tall shade trees everywhere where there's ground level trees. Secondly, I would urge you to maximize the number of trees on site, which I know you're trying to do. And here I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleague here, Jim, to my right. My commission would like you to consider getting rid of the drop-off space on Kirkwood, and also making sure you minimize the impact of the bus shelter on Langston to maximize the number of trees. And I would suggest that this isn't just it's a tree versus a parking space, like they're co-equal. They're not. If you have a tall shade tree there, you're going to get benefits for 30, 40, 50 and all more years. And those are strong benefits, especially for the stormwaters racing into your site. So I would suggest that you have 31, I think I heard you say 31 retail spaces in your parking garage. That's plenty of space for pizza delivery guys to pull in and drop off their pizzas. So I would suggest that maybe you consider not having those spaces on Kirkwood and Langston. The next thing my commission wants to recommend is that the tree planting strips be at least 7 or 8 feet wide, not 6. The American National Center Institute 8300 standard for street trees calls for 8 to 10 feet. Actually, Arlington allows 6 to 8. but 6 is really seen as the bare minimum. I've asked the urban forester this, 6 is the bare minimum. So yeah, the trees have a chance of surviving, but I think every inch you get, everything you can gain helps those trees survive. This goes to the points that you were raising, Jackie, about Berkeley. So I urge you to go back and take a look at where you can buy an inch here and an inch there. I'm not asking for 10 feet. I'm asking for 1 or 2 feet, 7 or 8 feet wide to maximize the likelihood that these trees are going to survive. And I think you can do that. You can buy an inch here or there with a sidewalk or something else. I've looked at it and we can see where you can do it. The next recommendation for my commission is for the plaza at the southwest end to be designed as a mini forest with an all-natural design, not a park. A reason for this is, number one, for residents who live there, they've got the big fourth story promenade up there. I can't remember what the term of art is, the raised area with all the trees and plantings, which is terrific. And the location of this park, I don't think people are going to be streaming from nearby civic associations to go and recreate there. It's the size of my tiny yard in Northwest Arlington. It's 5,000 square feet. So I would suggest that you minimize my commission suggests that you minimize the hardscape there and really keep it a natural area. And I would question, I looked at those trees too. I think there's some trees there that look healthy enough to be saved. So I would suggest that you go back and take a fresh look, maybe with the urban forester, maybe someone from my commission.
We already did that.
Well, maybe I think my commission would like to come and take a look at that. But even if you don't do that, consider having it a natural area without as much hardscape. You told me that the mature trees on the pawn shop side of the line on the northeast are going to be saved. Our suggestion, our recommendation is do whatever you can to save their root systems so that they thrive, as well as the new trees you're going to plant along the stormwater corridor there. We very much commend your efforts to have trees and landscaping planters installed on the upper area. That's terrific. That helps you meet your 35% goal. My commission asked for an opportunity to review what trees and landscaping, what the types of trees and landscaping are going to put in, so we can get some feedback. And finally, we very much applaud your participation in the green building incentive program. We recommend that bird-friendly glass be used throughout the building, given that this site is very close to natural spaces in the river. We also applaud the design for low-level sidewalk security lights all around the property. We ask that the entire site be compliant with international dark sky standards so that, and we think that this can be done without compromises. So those are our comments. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Melissa, online.
Yes, thank you. So Melissa Reggio, Park and Recreation Commission. I wanted to just start with commending the developer for the changes they made during these 6 months. Particularly impressed by, the stormwater management in particular. But one thing my commission had commented on for me to relay was just for the trees along the pedestrian walk along the I-66 ramps. Just consider those trees have a lot of exposure to highway pollution and may have limited sun. So for the best growth of those trees, we suggest looking into ones that have resilience to those obstacles. And of course, as said before, native plants, but that's already been tackled. But yes, that was one of the major things we wanted to address that has not already been addressed this evening. I had more comments, but we have very opinionated people that have already said them. Thank you.
I'll be very quick. I just want to second the downlighting. I think we've talked about before. The building is, at least for now, going to be the tallest building in the area. So downlighting would be really key. So thank you for considering that.
With the 35% coverage, what portion of that actually is on the terraces and matches? You're only talking about a site that already has 81% pervious surface, so it's kind of hard to see. And the terraces are not going to be able to really sustain the types of trees that really add the most benefit to the community. They have a nice amenity, they do something, but it's big, tall canopy trees, which is what we're really missing.
It's hard to hear you back here.
Yeah, I was just saying is that with a 35% tree canopy coverage, a good portion of that, I think, has to be the terraces. Because it just is, because you've got 81% that's impervious surface. So, and it's really the canopy trees that are the most important in terms of, kind of carbon sequestration and cooling and that. So, whatever they put on the terrace isn't really going to be mentioned that, and kind of, what Tenley said earlier is, what size trees can actually really be supported in that type of environment where you're not just going to be able to have the type of soil volume that you get if you're planting something directly in the ground. But it would also, and it'll be helpful also to know in terms of, have you done estimates in terms of what the reduction in the urban heat island impact is in terms of designs that you're providing? And would again reiterate that it's important to be compliant with dark skies and use the, downlighting so you're not adding to pollution, and also important to select lights more on the yellow amber scale in order that are less, more beneficial for the insects.
Okay, so let's move on now to sustainable design. No. Oh, sorry, Joan.
Yeah. Actually, you hadn't touched on any of that, and so, a much more elaboration would be more useful. It looks like, you're going, whether it's, what level of GVIP you're going with, and right now you're actually using, GVIP has just been updated. And one of the important things on that is that they've moved from LEED 4.0, which is what your assessment was based on, the LEED 5, which is actually a much better standard when you're looking at climate issues and carbon, carbon reductions in the buildings.
Okay, so let's move on now. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, gosh, it's like, hold on.
I'm just excited.
Okay, I'm a little nervous, but beyond what we've already discussed about the Custis Trail and the analysis, for community benefits, go ahead.
So I think the county used to do this quite some time ago. But it's very challenging that, I gather that you want to take inputs on prioritization, but it's really challenging to imagine what's possible without dollar figures. So are you in a position today or sometime soon to share with us sort of the assessed value of what's being recommended for this site?
Okay. Yeah, it's a negotiation between the county manager.
Well, my comment is I don't like it.
I have a comment or question about the affordable housing commitment. And this, I guess it's to staff as much as it is to the developer. How many of those affordable units are designed for families? And if that's not something that's normally a factor, given the number of units in this building, even if it means potentially reducing the total number of committed affordable units, would you be willing to consider increasing the number of units designed to accommodate families? Because I think we would love to see families, especially families at this income range, be able to be a part of this neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. So we have not finished our negotiations on the community benefit package, so we don't have a number for you of the number of on-site units that are going to be in the building at this time. But totally read you loud and clear that family-sized units are preferable. That is actually a recommendation of our affordable housing master plan. So it's something that staff works very hard with the applicant to try to.
Okay, so and I was to the point where I would prefer to see a few extra family units to reduce the total number of units, because you're not as many one. And I think all of Cherrydale.
Yeah.
He just asked my question, so thank you, but you're not asking for a reduction in cap.
No. I'm saying I would say.
I'll associate myself with it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'll just associate myself with Jim's comments.
Tenley, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So staff has already negotiated all of the benefits that are on this slide. And the question is, do we want to swap them out with things that aren't on the slide, or are we not going to get everything that's on the slide and we have to say like which 15 things or which 10 things or which 8 things we do want?
Well, Tinley, I think what this list is trying to convey is these are the recommendations from the Langston Boulevard area plan that guide us in our negotiation with the applicant to earn the 115 additional units that they're requesting. And so, you can suggest items that, like, for instance, improvements to the Custis Trail that aren't specific recommendations of the Langston Boulevard area plan. But, when we are working with the developer to come up with a community benefits package, we're really guided by, what's on this list and what's in the plan.
Okay, so we will get everything on this list as is.
We are working with the applicant on what is feasible, given the amount of additional density that they're requesting. And you may not see everything that's on this list.
Okay, so one way for us to think about is the things that are on this list, what do we definitely want to see in there? And then also, is there anything additional like the Custis Trail improvements? I just wanted to kind of frame that for everybody. Because usually at this stage, I feel like we get a list of what we are getting and then we can comment on it. But right now we are not necessarily getting everything on this slide.
Thank you. This is Mark Koblenz from Maywood Community Association. So thank you, Commissioner Peterson, for that comment. I want to build on that. The local community associations, let me speak for Maywood. I think that we're looking at these community benefits and understanding that these were negotiated between the county and the developer. And it appears a couple of them, we understand that the housing and the stormwater management are going to help in a larger sense. The stormwater management appears very much so to benefit the developer's building to not flood. But in terms of overall benefit to the surrounding communities, I think that there's shortcomings here. And I don't think that the county staff has necessarily done a great job in really working to see what's going to be to the benefit of these local communities. A lot of these things are going to help Rooney's building in their marketing to help rent out these apartments. A lot of the streetscape things, which are only directly in front of the building, the public space, which is realistically only going to be used by residents in this building. People from Maywood and Cherrydale are not going to come to the pawn shop corner to use this little tiny park. So I would like to see what is going to be proposed and actually provided to the local communities that are actual real community benefits, other than directly at the site, directly benefiting this one particular property. And the Custis Trail, that's a good example, and I would like to propose that, but there's many others. One simple thing, for example, if you go across Langston, the sidewalk against Langston where Lion Village Shopping Center is, that sidewalk is narrow and a mess as well. It's a short area, but that could be improved. I know it's not directly at your site, it's across the street, but improving that area would be a big benefit to residents of all 4 of these community associations whose pedestrians are trying to go back and forth up and down Langston and trying to cross and don't want to take their lives in their hands to do so.
As the civic association where this is located, I want to emphasize that what is done for this building and for the immediately adjacent neighbors goes directly to the issue of the higher density that's being proposed. So for us, the greatest benefit would be not to do all 116 units, so that there is adequate space to push back and have more green space along Kirkwood, have the garage farther back, and have something that is more pedestrian friendly and more of a main street feel to it. And it has to do with proportion. Right now, we've talked about lots of things that Langston Boulevard area plan has. One of the other things is it says that buildings will step down to integrate with the neighborhoods that are next to them. This does not do that. It comes right to the edge at the top, at the, not just 12-story, but really 13-story height. And to me, the biggest benefit you could do would be to say, let's not try to, make it a candy store for other things. Let's make it a viable site that integrates well with the neighborhood and does not negatively impact the direct neighbors. And that is, I think that's the whole point of community benefits. It says in your presentation, Matt, you did a great job, I think, of saying, this is to add density, which is a value, but it is to do it in a context that where you mitigate the impact of that density. And what's happened here, and there's no blame on this, but the circumstances have changed this. And I think it needs to be looked at again for this reason. Originally, the site had another 25,000 square feet in it. And you were going to be able to put this density into a context where you could use that for parking, trees, and, barriers with the neighborhood, step down, all of that was going to be possible there. And then, what was envisioned when the Langston Boulevard plan was written did not come about. And so the very notion that it could be 10 stories, I think, changed the moment it wasn't, that it's only 3/4 of the size the site was planned. That's number one. Number two, we all knew, or some of us knew better than others, I guess, that this was a site that was, yes, next to a FEMA floodplain, but prominently listed as a major flooding site in the ramp. And that there's little you can do at the bottom of a watershed to affect that. And we knew from talking with DES that it was going to require much more effort to protect this building and the building site, and in fact, take more space to do that. So the fact that we now have addressed in a more realistic way, I think, stormwater is not a surprise. And the fact that it took more space to do that is not a surprise. So what we've been doing is we've been carving away at this space and trying to have the same footprint and whittling away things like tree space and ground space, which are critical for climate, but also for the neighborhood and the neighborhood feel we're trying to get. Right now, I think what you have is a nice architecture, but a building that is too big for where it is. It's now a big square that's here. And all of the edges where the softening was going to be have been narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and squeezed in. So for me and for our civic association, the most important community benefit is to consider this in the context of the neighborhood that it's in, and consider that maybe a decrease of a few units could get you the trees we need as a barrier and the green space we need as a barrier and a step down so that it doesn't go 13 stories right up until the edge of the street. Thank you.
Final comment here on community benefits, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. I just want to echo some of these sentiments that we're hearing from civic associations, and I'll ask Jim Ginger if I'm bastardizing this a little bit, but the way that the Langston Boulevard area plan was sold, at least I think to our community, was the county would signal to investment capital what value they could unlock, and the the quid pro quo was that we would get all the cool stuff that we needed. We would have transportation benefits, it would be safer, it would be walkable, it would be more beautiful, we'd have parks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the unfortunate reality, and I don't blame anyone in this room, but the unfortunate reality is we're right before planning commission. The negotiations have taken place in rooms that are not this room. And the communities that are impacted by this, 4 of them, I think roughly 10,000 people are represented by these 4 communities. they don't see themselves reflected in the package of community benefits, or at least imperfectly reflected. And I think that's unfortunate, and maybe there's time to course correct. But even if not on this site, let's make sure we course correct for the next one.
Ginger, I have you on the list for public comment.
Very, so we'll let you. All right, so next is, is it no, it's construction,
Yeah, construction issues.
construction. Right. Any questions, construction issues?
The only one I had, which I've emailed Matt about, is about the fire control panel, and so that the address can be moved to Kirkwood, but I don't know if there was a response.
Actually, yeah, so I did check in with the fire marshal on that, and Bryce, you can correct any incorrect thing that I say. But essentially, the fire marshal has confirmed that the address has to be on Langston Boulevard. And so that's the answer. Yeah.
And there was no way to move the fire control panel into Kirkwood? Because I know there's the two lobbies and they have to be adjacent to it. Is it because of the retail space and that's why they prefer it closer to Langston?
I'm not certain about the technical reason within the fire code. I don't know, Bryce, you followed that conversation a little bit closer than I did, but yeah.
Let's work on that as well.
Yeah.
That's something that we're trying to pursue as well, so we need to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, it's based on the FCC,
Okay.
and they're evaluating where it is. I don't know if there's reasons why I ended up on Langston to begin with, but there's also some creative ways you can interface with Google, essentially to the Uber drivers to go into.
Yeah, I understand that. I thank you for saying that you're also interested in it, because I think that would mitigate a lot of the transportation concerns that we raised regarding Langston Boulevard and the 66 ramp and the turning right on red. If it was on Kirkwood, then I feel like you have a little more control.
Yeah, it's fair, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for looking into it, though.
Yeah, we'll continue to work with the applicant.
Moving on to project wrap up. That's just basically the timeline, which I think you.
Well, I think what I think we've typically done is just go around the table and see if anybody has concluding.
Any concluding comments around the table before we go to public comment?
I'll be really short. I know you've heard this already, but I also want to say thank you. The overland relief is really important, and it probably really delayed the start of your project. So, thank you.
I just want to say that we've heard from DES that they're talking about new signals, and I think that signal phasing, giving the pedestrians an actual fighting chance to get across these intersections alive, something the county sounds like could even do before this project breaks ground, let alone is finished. And I really hope the county actually follows through on that and has a barn dance crossing if possible at both intersections. Because especially at the I-66 off ramp, to happen to cross twice is really silly. And it's really three sides of a square when you look at where you're forcing them to walk.
Can we have that available for the planning commission?
The upgrades.
Thank you.
I was gonna say that I'm more of an outsider because I don't really go to Langston that much except for projects. So I have to say I commend everyone here because both the county, the civic associations, and the owner are being so engaging. So for me, this is a good precedence for any future projects to see what is the potential of pressing and pushing and, just not being satisfied with what you have. I know that it's not perfect, but I'm actually really excited about this project.
Yeah, and on that note, as you know, all of us come to the table with our, our asks and stuff, and it's almost impossible for any 100% satisfy everybody at the table. And I think most of us can see the extensive amount of work done on a major situation that affects not just you as neighbors, really the counties. I appreciate that. Going down the road and
I'm actually very familiar with the site. I have 3 projects that I did, 3 houses, and one of them was heavily flooded in 2017, 18. I think the culverts are the ones that gave out. So any work done to the culverts, I think is definitely going to help We had to redo the entire bottom floor basically because it was all ruined. And also I would associate myself with the comment about the trail. I think that's great. That's a great idea to look at the trails. The trails are very controversial in Arlington. I didn't know, I'm from Italy. I didn't know there were so many trails. Arlington is very proud of its trails. But then when I got on some of them feel a little, yes, sketchy. And also there's like a weird biker culture going on. So anything to make, yeah, I'm just saying. There was like a biker apparently was slapping people in the, in my neighborhood in Ballston, Bon
I
Air.
know that guy.
Yeah. Somebody was stabbed up the street. Like there's stuff going on the trails that has made me question them. So I think anything done to the trails is a great idea.
Yeah, I would really want to emphasize that sustainability and addressing the climate crisis is really a core county value. We have a climate resolution that was passed earlier this year on that issue and would strongly urge you to, you know, make that a prime value in the design of your overall building, which means first and foremost, a building that's highly energy efficient, with a good strong envelope, but also no on-site burning of gas and also, you know, basically getting it so that it can operate on zero carbon and looking at ways to reduce the carbon intensity of the materials that are being used. But, you know, this, you know, again, developers should really be striving to not do the minimum of what's in the GDIP, which, as I said, is based right now on some obsolete standards, but actually describes the best that we can do within something that's really going to do well in the future.
Yeah, I commend the developer for taking on a very difficult site. I commend the process. I commend the outstanding staff work. I think Matt and Bryce did an outstanding job. And just on the community benefit from the affordable standpoint, either the large family units and CAF units are usually difficult and market rate, or a nice, robust developer contribution would be appreciated for AHIP. Thank you.
Yeah, my only comment was on the transportation. You already heard it, so I don't have to repeat it. I was pretty explicit too. I would just say that I think the things that he suggested are doable and appreciate you considering.
Very, very quickly, with the idea of the Custis Trail improvements appearing to have some positive feedback, I would love to have the opportunity to make specific suggestions about what could be done. I'm an avid user of the trail. I'm the big cyclist myself, but my point is we can suggest some specific things that I think would make a big benefit for not a lot of cost. And I'd like to be able to work with you to propose those things.
I'll just associate myself with Joe's comments.
You skipped me.
Okay.
I wanted, yes, to thank everyone, and we're going to continue this collaborative discussions. And yes, we want to commend Rooney and Venable for making it possible for us to, I mean, even meeting with us this week so that we weren't strangers to what was going to be presented. I want to also associate comments specifically with Forest and Natural Resources Commission. I think the idea of a urban forest on that 5,000 square feet is a really good idea. First of all, it would get you more trees. Also, it's bothered me from the beginning that this has got so much impermeable space in what could be a green space. So to have actual ground there, and you need for avoiding heat islands, you need the tree canopy for day shade, but you need the ground for night reduction. And so I think those ideas are all good. And even if you can have a few places to sit on the edge, but not the whole area, I think that would.
I have a request for future meetings. Can I just supplement real fast? With future plans coming down the pike on Langston, would it be possible to invite a VDOT representative to participate in this process in any way so they can hear the public sentiment?
It's an excellent idea.
I think we can definitely invite.
Yes, for 4 more years, the next year might attend, so.
Okay. Online, Tenley, Any comment?
Hi,
Bentley?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for all of the work that this group together, whether staff, community members, roster members, the applicant have all done. I think we've made a lot of change over the time that we've been working on this, and I think we are getting close to a project that we can all approve together. Like we said at the last meeting, this is one of the first projects for Plan Langston Boulevard, so it's really exciting. And we want to make sure that it addresses as many of the community benefits that the plan calls for. We would really like to see those happen and really set an example for future projects down the road. I'm really excited about on-site affordable housing in this area. I'm really excited about the biophilia, including all of those beautiful trees on the elevated patio area. I really hope we can prove that those are possible, because I think that number of trees on top of a building is going to be a great example that I'm going to use for future projects to say, look, they did it here, and everybody else can too. So I hope we can make that happen. I'm really excited about the protected bike lanes on Langston Boulevard, and all of the work that you all have done to mitigate some of the stormwater issues in the area, and like changing the building design, moving it back a little bit. That doesn't often happen when we ask developers to do that, to make their building smaller, to address an actual issue that needs to be mitigated. So thank you for that work. And that's it for me.
Thank you. As you can tell, I'm losing my voice. On behalf of the Disability Advisory Commission, I appreciate and associate with the comments around community benefit. We will continue to press for the maximum number of accessible units. And in terms of construction, we welcome the opportunity to continue discussion about interior and exterior doors and parking that is accessible from the start and does not need to be retrofitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Welcome. So now we are going to go to public comment, and we have 5 speakers. Final one, Jackie, is speaking on behalf of the resident who had to leave. Oh, yes. So I'm just giving you a little few minutes to warm up, so you can. Yes. Everyone will have 2 minutes. If you keep going on after 2, we will get the big hook and pull you off. So the first speaker is
John Obenberger.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, I was taken aback, and it must have been maybe Matt, the staffer, that mentioned it was expected that the 150 additional units would be approved, and they had negotiated, or he implied the staff negotiated on behalf of the community benefits that would outweigh the adverse impacts of those 150 additional units. That's 4 stories. That's a substantial negative impact on the development, the existing development, people that bought houses that look over this area, and people that bought houses based on the zoning and density that was there at the time. And this was advocated and provided to staff as feedback in the Plan Langston Boulevard study, like Jackie mentioned. And nobody in Lion Village had ever approved or endorsed the density and the height that was proposed for this site or others in that neighborhood. So I appreciate the enthusiasm and the ideas about improving walkability, improving sidewalks and paths. That is absolutely no benefit to the community that outweighs the adverse impact it's going to have on our property values, our resale, in our immediate neighborhood based on the proposed change in density and zoning. And that discussion about public benefits, the value of those benefits outweighing adverse impacts to other developments, that should be discussed with the entire neighborhood, not just behind closed doors with the developer who's going to financially benefit from this, versus staff in not having that public discussion on what are those benefits. I can go on about transportation issues. If you want, I'll stay on afterwards because I think you got some serious problems at this intersection.
Your comments.
Laura Yokel Kelly, are you still with us, Laura?
Laura? Laura, are you still there? Laura? Oh, Laura. We'll come back. Dr. Byrne, are you there? Dr. Byrne? Seem to have lost everything. Okay. So we'll go now to, and we will circle back for the others to see if we can still get them. Ginger.
Yes. Well, we're really excited to get to this point. Thank you to the applicant for working so closely with the community on many of these changes. I'm going to get to answering Aaron's question about when we were going through the long-range planning process. Yes, there was an understanding we were looking at this intersection that it would take a lot to fix it, but that it was always a priority for the community, for walkability, for the whole vision. But that promise was not just developer contributions, it was also public investment. The combination of the two, and at the time, there was the real possibility that there would also be a very large site across the street that would also be going. So, and if it's fiscal year 2015, there was $20 million put into the CIP because of the widening of I-66. So there was an idea that this intersection would be fixed. So now that we're doing the site plan, we're building a building, and we don't see what the big fix is, as you can see, frustrating. So we're testifying at the planning commission hearing at the county board, that we hope that the county will go ahead and push forward with the study and improve this intersection. So it's been at the very top of the list for the community along the corridor to fix it. It's a dangerous intersection. And all we want to do is be able to cross the street. Oh, and 3 kudos spots. It's a big building.
3 kudos.
So shall we go back to see, Laura, might you still, who is on?
Do we have Bernie? Bernie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Go ahead, Bernie. Dr. Byrne.
Okay, thank you. This is happening at a lot of SPRC meetings. This project lacks significant biophilia or sustainability. There is no green roof or solar panels on the roof. There will be fake biophilic artificial green walls that will have paint, but no plants. Now, there is something on the terrace, but that's really only a minimal amount. You're missing the green roof and things like that. And native flowering vines should hang down from the roof and on any ledges and balconies. They should climb from the ground on trellises. That is real biophilia. We don't see it. We won't very often, and we rarely see it at all. Nothing here. The applicant's conceptual landscape plan does not identify the species of any ground covers and perennials. While this was permissible last year when the applicant submitted the initial site plan application, the county amended Administrative Regulation 4.1 early this year to require site plans to contain conceptual plant palettes for all plants. This does the trees and shrubs, that's it. Although not required, the applicant should submit a complete conceptual plant palette before the Planning Commission meets to discuss this project. This will permit the public to make comments on the plan palette in a timely manner, instead of having to send it off to the basically after the site plan is approved, and then there'll be some big surprises. All plants should be native to Arlington and its vicinity. There should be no cultivars unless they are more resistant to disease than their native plants. That is because cultivars often have altered features that do not stop being pollinators or are toxic to insects. To help restore declining monarch butterfly populations, the plant palette should contain common milkweed, Asclepias styriaca. That's the monarch's favorite, and most monarchs are fed on common milkweed before they reach Mexico. No other milkweeds are satisfactory. About the Custis Trail, the county has an ongoing process that is going to redesign the public Custis Trail. It's on the county website. You don't have to go to the developer. It's on there. They're doing it in the middle. It'll become within this year. So the Custis Trail is being taken care of. If you're interested in, join that conversation. They've already had some public input, but there'll be more. So remember that, those people at Custis Trail, it's being done and the county is on it. And the county will probably fund it under the CIP. Developers don't need to do it. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. Jackie?
For Claire Jacobson, who is a resident of Lion Village. The question was for the architect's slide. And her question was, she said, it appears that this is moving the entire building further along Langston, further away from Langston Boulevard and toward Kirkwood Road. Why?
Cindy, go ahead and answer that, yes, because she had to leave, so we'll allow it.
It's not moving away from Langston Boulevard.
Speak up.
That side isn't moving. Langston Boulevard side is.
I can't hear you.
The Langston Boulevard side's not moving at all.
The building line on Langston is staying the same, but the building is getting narrower and longer, so it's coming closer towards Kirkwood, but it's staying the same.
But that's what she's talking about. She's talking about how it's getting closer to Kirkwood than it was in
Stormwater.
and I
It's
assume the
the
answer is
original location as we originally, the location in which we originally submitted the building is.
can you speak up because she's going to be watching this on tape.
It is, the location of the building along Kirkwood is where we originally submitted. So it's in the realm of what this building has been and is going to be. It's still there. Has not changed all that much. Design composition has not changed, but what we've really done is widen the area between the pawn shop and the building to allow for more water flow.
Right. It's a change. It's not much different from round one. It is different from round two. This is round three. So she's probably comparing it to round two.
All righty, so one last,
Yeah, we have one more.
one more, okay.
Andrew.
Yeah, that's, Andrew Root, Lion Village, and I'd like to identify myself to comments made by other four civic associations, as well as our rep from Langston Boulevard about the need to sooner rather than later study the intersection Kirkwood, Langston Boulevard and Spout Run, and to bring resources to bear to address the already bad traffic situation there. And I'd also like to align with my colleagues from the other three impacted neighborhoods, particularly the comments made by Jackie, where I think a better building would have been built if the neighborhoods which are directly impacted the building were brought into the discussion and the negotiation of community benefits. And I think a smaller building more appropriate to the lot size that the builders had obtained would be much more in line with the goals and intent of Plan Langston Boulevard. I would have to disagree with Aaron. I think it's probably necessary to get it right now rather than get it right the next time, because allowing this precedent to not get it right may be an excuse for others down the line to make some mistakes. Thank you.
One last shout out to Laura. Laura, this is your last chance, dear. Okay, we seem to have lost Laura, so I want to thank everybody for hanging in this process. As a former Civic Association president, my heart is with you, so I just want to encourage everybody to stay involved with this process. There are a lot of opportunities moving forward, and I will say staff is so responsive, even when this moves along the commission chain, they will still be sending comments back, answers to your questions. So do feel free, to ask those. I see who is up here. Is there somebody that has?
He
John Owen.
previously.
Oh, great. Okay, great. I can't, I was like, it's late. So, I want to thank everybody. I know it's close to the holidays here and yet we were all here at the table. We once again had a very civil and thoughtful and I think productive conversation that will in the end make it better for everybody. So, the commissions will come up. You can follow the exact times. Commissions or. Yes.
Will we get the members of the public at those hearings, commission hearings?
Commission hearings, yes.
We'll just, okay.
So just make sure that, you know, if you want to sign up to speak, look and see what the rules are, because everybody's are a little different. And I wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season. So thank you so much.
And just really quickly, I will send out an email when we have a schedule for commission meetings. I'll send out an email. And how you can participate.
I do need.
And we can submit written comments in advance.
Yeah. Read everything. And thank you so much. Up the pens and the sign. Their sustainability.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, I policy that I cancel my investigation. Pardon me? I did, I.
Have that magic power.
And there, it's hard, it's going I worked a lot on preparedness.
All right.
They just don't let, that's what they.
Every.
Thank you.
Every other administration has had the same problem.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. And the insurance, the flood
I
insurance,
imagine the,
rules, everything.
I thought I was worrying.
And preparedness has always been a stepchild.